Alright everybody, what's going on with the price of HEX? It's 80% down from all-time highs, and is it ever going to recover? Is this your first bear market ever? Is this your first rodeo? Guys, I'm here to tell you everything's going to be okay, and I'm going to explain why. I'm going to offer my predictions for how much pain we have left to go. How much more can we possibly take before we find a bottom here? Not just in HEX, but in the crypto market in general. Because as we know, guys, we've got geopolitical instability with Russia and Ukraine. We've got the Fed promising to raise interest rates, trying to get a handle on out-of-control inflation. So much stuff going on that the market's anticipating, right? The market's anticipating a bear market or a recession even. Something that's really just a word, but basically a recession is just a prolonged bear market or maybe a more severe bear market. And everyone's vague definition of what a bear market is loose and undefined. And so we're going to try to put a general sense of direction on this, okay? So that you guys have a little bit of a map on how to think about this, guys. But don't forget that if you're in HEX or if you're in crypto in general, the only people that win in this game, guys, I have to keep reminding you because I know a lot of you are new and you probably bought the top or you bought somewhere in the 30 to 40 cent range. And now you're either holding the big bag or you're probably not watching this video because if you sold, you probably went away to go do something else and go lose your money somewhere else. But that's okay. Because I'm going to tell you the only people that win in crypto are long-term holders and founders of companies, right? Or coins. So, exchange founders, coin founders, and then you, the lucky person who gets to be a long-term staker in the staking class of HEX. Imagine holding Bitcoin for any period of 4 years. Doesn't seem that hard, right? But I know how people are. I know how I was in the 2017 bubble. Guys, I've been in crypto since 2015. That's 7 years. That's more than half the time crypto's ever existed. I've seen cycles come and go, and I have faith that if we look at the fundamentals, crypto is not going anywhere. There's more developers than ever before, more places accepting it. It's penetrating the mainstream consciousness. Governments, national governments are now trying to grapple with the idea of how do we control these things, right? Like, as if that's possible. How do we control the internet, right? You can't. Well, China tried to, but people are going to try to impose their controls and their will on things that they don't understand. And so your government is going to tell you that don't worry. It's, we've got this under control. It's safe now as long as you use our pre-approved cryptocurrencies where we can track everything you do and you don't make too much money on it and you pay half of it back to the government as your tax for living here for all the great services we provide and the wars that we enter into, whether you like it or not. We've got crypto covered. We've got your back in this confusing world. But guys, you need to listen to the alternative, what's really going on in crypto, guys. Crypto is about taking the power back into your own hands and about understanding the long-term vision. Okay, the long-term vision of crypto means not holding for just 2 to 3 months. It means holding through giant 80% dips like the one we're experiencing today that might last another 6 to even 1 more year, 6 months to a year. Because as I've said time and time again, the price you pay for mad gains is extreme volatility. And if you're not here for that, if you can't stomach it, get out now before even more pain comes your way. But we've already dipped 80% in HEX, my favorite coin, of course. And we've dipped pretty heavily in Bitcoin, and the macro scale is taking a big dump as well. Stocks all across the board. People seem to be fleeing into the dollar, and we seem to be entering a more risk-off environment, meaning people aren't speculating as much, maybe because they're not getting free money and free handouts from the government anymore. And reality is kind of striking in, and they're saying, oh man, we actually have to go back to work now, and the pandemic is over, and there's this new big war in Ukraine to worry about now. So a lot of chaos going on in the world, guys. I'm here to tell you, just hold through it, okay? You're going to be okay. You're going to be happy you did as well. You're going to be happy that you didn't shake yourself out of your own bags. And what better way than by just staking your coins and making 40% interest on your coins for, a longer-term stake. If you've got a 1-year stake, you're still making about 13% APY, meaning you're going to have a reward. You're rewarding yourself for holding through these dark times. Now, because of the macro conditions like I just talked about, we could be in for another 6 to 18 months of pain. But, traditionally, guys, bear markets don't last as long as bull markets. Let's look at what this random website has to say about bear markets. Okay, they did some statistics for us. They added up the length of the average bear market in the S&P 500, defined by a drop of 20% or more. That is pretty laughable, right, guys? Because in crypto, 20% is just another day in crypto, right? You can go 20% up or down in a single day. So we're playing a different ball game. We're obviously not in the traditional markets, but if we just look at what the S&P 500 has done since 1929, they've calculated and averaged out all of the different bear markets of 20% or more dips, and they've found that on average, they only last about 289 days. A lot shorter than the actual bull markets, right? And that's because I think from a philosophical standpoint, our humanity's anticipation of the future and optimism and imagination for where things can go. Our sense of possibility and imagination outweighs our sense of destruction. But we do need a little destruction once in a while to rise back out like a phoenix from the ashes, right? So we need a little bit of creative destruction. Basically, what I'm trying to say is we need to let some steam out of the markets because we're way too over exuberant about everything. People are buying pictures of monkeys for $60,000. All those people need to lose all their money. I'm sorry, guys, I'm sorry. But people that were over exuberant need to realize that, things just don't go up forever. And so again, if you bought HEX at 50 cents or even 20 cents, and you're down 50% right now, this happens. This is totally normal in crypto. And if you go to any other coin, a lot of other people are in the same boat as you. So don't worry. We're all experiencing this pain together. I don't find it fun at all, but I'm making this video because at this point I'm semi-immune to it. I really am, because again, I've been here 7 years. I know how these things work. And I've been in HEX since day one, and I've seen at least, I think there's been 7, maybe 8 dips over 60%. This just happens to be one of the biggest and longest ones. It's not even the biggest one by amplitude. So we're at an 80% dip in HEX, but it's not even the biggest one we've had. But it is the biggest one given the length of time it's dragged on for. And again, guys, this goes back to macro conditions. But let's make some predictions, guys. In this video, stick around because I'm going to predict where I think the bottom is going to be. And that's based off this totally random ass guess. Because we're all pulling numbers out of our ass. I've got a few numbers that I got up there too. So the average length of a bear market is 289 days according to this guy here. And we can use that to just, simply go 289 days for the top, or we could use this other concept, which I'll get into in a minute. So stick with me, but it has to do with the symmetry of markets, and I'll get into that soon. First, some philosophy, right? Now, because I'm making this prediction, I don't know if it will be a self-fulfilling prophecy or a self-defeating prophecy. What is a self-fulfilling prophecy? Well, an example of a self-fulfilling prophecy is often, if you believe in yourself, even if you haven't achieved the results yet, if you believe that you have achieved the results, it will eventually result in you achieving those results. So a self-fulfilling prophecy is essentially when expectations cause reality to occur. So an example might be if a teacher sets false expectations very, very high of their students might work extra hard to achieve those expectations because they've been placed upon them, because the prediction's been made that these kids are smart and they have such high potential. These kids might then choose to believe it and work towards that potential that they otherwise might not have. Alternatively, we have a self-defeating prophecy. This is the exact opposite of a self-fulfilling prophecy. It's also known as the prophet's dilemma. It essentially means that the act of predicting something prevents that very thing from happening. So what I'm trying to do here is communicate a narrative to a group of a couple thousand people, and hopefully you guys branch off that narrative and tell everybody about it, right? And this becomes more in the public sphere. But I don't know whether my prediction is going to be self-defeating or self-fulfilling. So, that's really the philosophical dilemma, and it has to do with first and second order chaos. Okay, this is a very interesting concept from the book called Sapiens, which I recommend reading or at least doing an audiobook or cliff notes. But guys, there's very simply put, there's 2 classifications of chaos. First order chaos doesn't respond to prediction. An example of this is I predict the weather, right? Well, the weather doesn't really give a crap about what I predict. It's going to happen either way. So I can at least have some level of accuracy in my prediction of the weather because the weather doesn't respond to my prediction. And that's also debatable if you want to get super philosophical, but the weather doesn't respond to my prediction, so it won't adjust itself. The earth and the universe won't adjust itself just because I predict something. Second order chaos is infinitely less predictable because it does respond to prediction. So second order chaos is chaotic because it responds to prediction. This has to do with stocks and politics. If everybody is thinking that something is going to go one way, people might then act accordingly or act contrary to that prediction. And it depends on the percentage of people acting in accordance or in contrary to that prediction. So second order chaos makes these things very complex because it essentially says that when you make the prediction, it can be self-fulfilling or self-defeating. And I would chalk that up to the strength of the narrative, right? The narrative is very strong and empowering. If the narrative is empowering, then people all can believe it to be true if they believe that they have some control over the narrative. If the narrative is portrayed to be something that you have no control over, well, then it can be self-defeating because people might just figure, oh, well, I have no control over this. If somebody's predicting the bottom's going to be here, I'm just going to dump my bags now and, wait for that bear market to come. Whereas, another way of thinking would be I'm going to buy my bags now because this guy predicted the bottom. I'm going to buy before that bottom comes just in case it doesn't actually come, right? So it's just a very complex system. Basically, all I'm trying to say is it's a guess, okay? It's all a guess. And that's all we're doing here. But I really do believe that the strength of the narrative matters. So let me try to put a picture together for you guys on the Bitcoin chart here. Bitcoin's gone through 4 cycles. I talk about this chart a lot. This is the BLX index all the way back from Bitcoin's birth. When it first started trading in early 2010, you could see the exponential rise, and it kind of goes in these pulsating waves. It pulses and it dies down. Pulses, dies down. And each time it dies down, that's essentially blowing the steam off of the overexuberance of the previous few years of mania, okay? And everybody gets all depressed. And then when the last guy has jumped out of the window or jumped off the bridge, then we can finally go back up again, okay? And I've got a really old video where I incorrectly predicted the Bitcoin top at $76,000. And, I was a little bit off, but kind of close, right? And I was using basic symmetry, basic ratios off of the amplitude of each wave diminishing during each cycle. So you get diminishing highs as time goes on. That's pretty clear, right? Because the pulses take more and more money to pump the price up to new all-time highs. And because more and more money keeps getting sucked in, it kind of tapers off in this asymptotic way in terms of the price. But then the length of times as well. I draw out the length of time from bottom to top and then from bottom to bottom of each cycle. Now let's zoom back in just on the last cycle. The length of time that it took in the last cycle to go from the lows of about $160 to the highs of $20,000, it was 1,071 days. And then the length of time to go from the low all the way to the next low at 3,200-ish took 1,435 days. Now as a ratio, what's 1071 divided by 1435? It is 0.75. So the ratio there is bottom to top equals 0.75 times bottom to bottom. Gary, following me so far? And we could do that. We could extend that from the lows at 3,200 to these new all-time highs at 69,000 for Bitcoin. Okay, this is the Bitcoin chart we're looking at. And so if we assume that the top is in, let's assume the top is in at 69,000. Okay, we've got 1,064 days from bottom to top. And then that leaves us with a very simple algebra equation, solve for x, and you can find when bottom to bottom will be. So if bottom to top equals 0.75 times bottom to bottom length, well, we can really do some quick math there and just say bottom to top divided by 0.75. So 1064 divided by 0.75 equals 1,418. So approximately 1,418 days from the bottom, we might be able to predict the bottom of the next Bitcoin bear market. This would put us at October 31st, Halloween in 2022. So coming up this fall, guys, get ready for a big bottom. Okay, that's my prediction right there. Also, we can, again, use the very simplistic prediction of going back to the 289 days thing. We could just very, very easily just say, what's 289 days from the $69,000 top? Well, that's August. That's about the end of August or early September. So we have this little gap window here from end of August to end of October. Basically in the fall of 2022 is somewhere where I think the bottom in the macro crypto market will be. Now I have an arrow right here. What's this arrow for? This is where I think the bottom of HEX might be. And I think it might come a little bit earlier due to the fact that HEX actually topped earlier than Bitcoin did, 50 days earlier to be exact. This is the HEX chart that we're looking at right now. And if you'll notice, we reached a high of 51 cents 50 days before the Bitcoin top on, early November of 2021, November 7th or 9th, 8th, I believe. And we've already done our 80% dip. And all the dips in the previous Bitcoin bear markets, macro bear markets, have been 80 to 85%. Altcoins sometimes drop 95%. However, I think HEX is showing strength. I think it's maybe reasonable to assume that 80 to 85% might be the lowest we could possibly go. 85% will put us at 7.5 cents for the HEX price, right? But we're showing some support right now at 11 cents. So we'll see what happens, okay? So if HEX tops 50 days before Bitcoin tops, then that puts us right around here, right around the end of June 2022. June 27th, 2022 might be the absolute bottom of HEX, and then we can start going back up. Now, maybe it's not that simple, or maybe it is that simple. Maybe it's more simple than that. Maybe we just go 289 days straight from the top of HEX, which would put us at July 5th, 2022. So either way, we're getting some kind of consistent range of end of June, early July. That's my prediction for when HEX might find a bottom, or at least stabilize and get ready to go back up again. Now, Pulse Chain could obviously come in and mess everything up. That has to do with that second order chaos, right? That also is a pretty good case for a strong enough narrative to overcome any bearish sentiment where people basically give up hope and have this learned helplessness, right? So a lot of people might be thinking that, oh, the market is doomed. There's nothing we can do about it. Pulse Chain and its release is giving people a sense of hope in the bear market, which I think is really unprecedented. And I think it's going to really, really melt some faces. When Pulse Chain comes out, I think it's going to throw a wrench in everybody's bearish sentiment. And I think we might be able to go up faster than we think. So there you have it, guys. HEX might bottom around, end of June, early July 2022. Bitcoin might bottom anywhere from August to October 2022. And then the cycle repeats, right? So don't you want to be buying in the time where nobody cares or where everybody's miserable? Because when there's blood in the streets, you have to be greedy when others are fearful. It's very, very simple. Easier said than done. Trust me, I know. This doesn't look like a chart on HEX that you might want to buy, especially if you've been holding all the way down. But historically speaking, and past performance doesn't predict future performance and all that, but history does rhyme, right? History tends to rhyme, which kind of contradicts the disclaimer that all the traditional financial system people make us say. So historically, dollar cost averaging in at these 80% dips has been a wonderful idea, especially if you believe that HEX isn't going to die. And if you need some proof that HEX isn't going to die, take a look at any of these old cryptocurrencies with way worse communities, worse brands, worse functionality, no founder, worse founder. Look at all these coins. Things like Litecoin, XRP, Dogecoin, Monero. All these things have survived. And albeit, that they grow much slower than HEX has shown. But if you give something enough time, just by virtue of not dying, look at the maximum length for Litecoin here. Let's go to a log scale. It still goes up and to the right over the course of the last 8 years. Okay, from 2014 or 2013 even to now. You still made out like a bandit if you bought Litecoin at $3. You said to wait a really long time, but meaning 8 years, which for some investors isn't even that long of a period of time. Let's look at some total garbage like Ripple, for example. Here's Ripple, right? Just because they kept the community alive and they kept the narrative alive, you've got the Ripple company dumping on the users' heads every month just to pay for their company's expenses, paying for holiday parties for a building full of people. And look at the price of Ripple over the last 8 years, up and to the right, but you've had these severe drawdowns and moments of maximum pain and maximum boredom. And it's really, really hard to deal with. So you need to see the bigger picture here, guys. Look at some of these really old cryptos if you need a little hope for the future. And then look at how much better objectively HEX is doing on all fronts compared to any of these coins. HEX has better game theory, 100% uptime, modular design, better founder, better logo, better website. It's a coin that was designed with speculative stickiness to cause people to actually come and stay, which is why the community has literally doubled. I mean, we had a conference full of people in Vegas, 600 people there, only 300 people there last year. Can you imagine if the number of people doubles every year? If you guys know power laws, that could be, we could be filling stadiums full of people, HEX people, in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's how long we'll be here for. I'll be here for 15 more years, guys. Can't promise what I'll be doing at that time, but I'll have my stakes and I'll still be staking HEX. Look at something like Dash, which has pitiful adoption. Very pitiful adoption. I mean, it was designed to be, the payment network that Bitcoin always failed to be. Well, price chart looks pretty bad compared to HEX, but still up and to the right. It still started off at 70 cents and now it's at $95 after, again, 8 years. So these things, just by their survivability factor and somebody holding the torch of that narrative, just somebody keeping the faintest flame of a narrative alive, the coin goes up and to the right. It's pretty insane. Okay, people are going to buy anything. Altcoins almost never die completely. Even the ones that do die, as long as somebody's buying them, as long as there's a market for them, they have a price. So they might be dead in terms of excitement and hype, but they never truly die. And HEX is the polar opposite of all of these altcoins, in my opinion. So don't be scared, guys. This has happened in HEX 7 to 8 times already. Do I need to remind you one more time? Look at this chart. This is my favorite chart. All of the giant dips, 79%, 71, 66, 86%. This is one that's bigger than the dip we had now. 55%, 43%, 44%, 62%. And finally, this latest 80% prolonged dip. And I get it, guys. The fact that it's so prolonged is what's painful, right? But it gives us time to build and strategize. The things like the HEX Investment Trust literally just launched totally under the radar. Guys, this is going to take accredited investor money and buy up HEX on the open market and sell a derivative product to Wall Street. We're getting Wall Street in. You understand how big that is? And that just opened For accredited investors, you have to have more than $1 million to be an accredited investor, or I think make over $300,000 per year or something like that. So it's for the big boys to get in on Wall Street, okay? And it's for people to invest in this trust. And the trust buys up HEX, it locks it. And what does that do for the price? Obviously makes the price go up. And it sells a derivative product that doesn't touch the spot price. People can trade on this side game all day long on, the NASDAQ, totally different market. And meanwhile, the investors are giving their money to the trust company, which is buying up the actual spot price of HEX on Uniswap and removing it from circulation. So you can almost think of it like a buy and burn feature for HEX. Right, that's some huge news that just came out that I don't see a lot of people talking about. Very exciting. But look, guys, you need to ask yourself, are you going to be one of those people that buys the dip and fast tracks your road to financial freedom, retirement, whatever you want to call it? Or are you going to be scared? Are you going to sit on the sidelines? I think it's too risky to sit around and do nothing at all. I really do think that's the bigger risk here. But if it's your first rodeo, if it's your first introduction to crypto, well, welcome. This is what we do here. We do big dips a lot. This is the game that you decided to play. So ask yourself, do you want to be a pump chaser? Do you want to try to find the next hidden altcoin low cap gem to 100x or whatever? I think that's degenerate behavior. And I think that because I tried it for years. I tried trading, I tried using leverage, I got wrecked, tried chasing altcoins, tried reading a white paper, thought it was big brain time. And I understand the words in the white paper. And that's all they sell you is a promise, a white paper and a dream, right? And the more impossible the white paper is, the harder the altcoins pumped. Ridiculous. Guys, the only way to make money in crypto is by buying the dip and holding for long periods of time, multi-years, on coins with product market fit. Not just any coin. But again, you could have been a total idiot and bought Dash and held it for a long time. Even with not much product market fit, you still would have made great money. That's the power of long-term holding. You could pick a pretty crappy coin, and if you hold it for long enough, it might go up. But you could pick a pretty awesome coin and hold it for even a year. I mean, how many of you guys out there have held HEX for a year? Because those that have are all very happy because you're in massive profit. So you could tell the people that are upset right now are also probably the people that have been holding for the shortest period of time. It's funny. Or maybe the people that actually need the money right away, in which case you shouldn't be investing with money that you actually need in order to live. And despite all these dips, guys, we're still at a 194,263% increase from all-time lows. It's hard to lose money in crypto if you just diamond hand it, if you stake it and forget about it. Don't you wish you could have done that with Bitcoin when Bitcoin was $10, $100, even $1,000? I wish I could have I bought a lot of Bitcoin at $1,000 and I flushed most of it down the toilet by doing trading and our bots and all this crazy stuff that didn't work. Okay, and I bought a lot more Bitcoin than I ended up with. Don't you wish you were just paid to hold your Bitcoin trustlessly without handing it over to a middleman? We're taking the power back into our own hands, guys. We have product market fit. We're replacing a $7 trillion market, the CD market. It's worth more than gold and credit card companies combined. HEX is doing that. It's basically a high interest savings account that you get to keep. All you need to do is memorize 12 little words in your head. You write them down on a sheet of paper, hide that sheet of paper. You could even just memorize it. And then, boom, you have a Swiss bank account in your head. You could take it anywhere. You don't have to call the bank and beg for your money. You don't have to abide by their terrible customer service. And, if they don't like where you're spending your money, they can shut you off. That doesn't happen with HEX. Okay, HEX just makes you more of HEX. It just multiplies itself. And it pays you to get over your own psychology. So I hope my bottom predictions are right. I hope it's not a self-defeating prophecy. I hope, some whale's not watching this and then just decides to mess with everybody and just, Crypto Coffee's prediction is wrong. I'm just going to paint a giant red candle here. Somebody could do that, or people could try to front run this prediction, or this prediction could not mean that much at all. And I could be giving a lot more significance to it than it actually has in reality, because I'm just trying to make an entertaining video for you guys. Hope you like it. Make sure to like and subscribe, guys. I've got some really interesting video ideas coming up in the future. I'm going to be talking about the secret group of people that really wins in HEX. I'm going to be talking about Hedron and some tutorials about how to mint and claim. And I'm going to be talking about what's on the agenda, what's left on the roadmap for Pulse Chain in order to launch. And I'm going to really lay it out good because it's hard to understand. I'm going to try to explain what things like the automated market maker fixer bot actually is doing. And I'm going to try to explain it in a way where we can all get a sense of how close we really are. I think we're really less than like 2 months away from pulse chain. But I want to portray that to you guys in future videos. So like and subscribe, click the notification bell, and make sure that you are first to receive those notifications. Also leave a comment below, tell me what you think, share the video with someone that you care about, and have a good rest of your day.